Hello and welcome to Future Engineering Podcast. My name's Jack Lomas and thank you so much for joining me today. Today, I'm joined by Paul Drayton of Laing O'Rourke. And as you can see, we're in a bit of a special place here at the new Everton Stadium in Liverpool. And we'll dive into it and explain it, why we're here and why it makes such a cool story for Future Engineering Club. But first, let's pass over to Paul for a bit of an introduction. Paul, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Yeah, thanks for joining us here at this fabulous stadium that we were privileged to deliver over the past 4 years or so, and proudly handed over on budget one day early on the 19th of December. So what a great Christmas present for everyone involved.
Absolutely. I mean, don't you love it when things go right in the industry?
Yeah, it's a great success story, and there's some great learnings that we've got as a company, and I think we've got as a sector as well. So hopefully we'll touch on some of that today.
Absolutely. And I guess sort of before we dive into what has enabled us to deliver the stadium on time, on budget, I want to sort of maybe take a step back around. So who are you, Paul? Like, what do you do at Laing O'Rourke, and what do you bring to the table here? Because I know that you've got such an interesting story in the journey you've been through so far.
Yeah, okay. It's a question I often ask myself, and I think colleagues probably do as well. So I'm very fortunate to head up an incredible digital team within the business. So that covers all of our digital engineers. So perhaps some of the more typical kind of BIM skills that we have within the sector. I have the information management and document control teams as well. So that's really getting into ISO 19650 and everything through from setting up CDEs through to handover. And then also the broader digitalization piece or other. So don't come to me to buy a laptop or to fix the photocopier, but if it's drones, immersive suites, mobile enablement of the teams out there, introducing new tech, reporting, dashboarding, etc., then I'm the person to go to.
Brilliant.
But yeah, it's not where I started.
No, and that's the interesting thing. A lot of folks within the construction sector come from construction and sort of been an engineer for sort of 20, 30 years or so. And that plays a critical role in the industry. But I think also it's important to bring folks from outside the industry. And I mean, me myself, I come from a technology background rather than an engineering background. And you yourself, you don't come from construction either, do you?
No, so yeah, we talk about squiggly careers in Laing O'Rourke. I definitely think I've got a fairly squiggly career. I've summarised it before as I've been fortunate to play with everything from ice creams to submarines. So I'm an engineer. I'm a medical engineer by training. So I used to develop and bring to market joint replacements and medical prostheses. I then had the chance to join, I guess we'd call it a startup now, but a process improvement consultancy, and I was working in the healthcare practice there. So that was going in and understanding what are the delays and frustrations that mean that waiting lists grow. But where I really found my passion was in big complex engineering programs and particularly in defence. So did some work in aerospace, a little bit in land, but really kind of 10 years in and around the maritime and nuclear sector. So working on in-service support and also on design and build of next generation aircraft carriers, submarines, warships as well. So I might not be from construction, but I'm very much from big complex engineering world.
Yeah.
So, and actually, if you stand back a little ways, there's a lot of similarities, and there's a lot to learn. They're all striving for technology and advancement. I often talk about the most important thing in defence, the most important thing in construction, and indeed in digital, is people, and they're all very, very people-focused industries, and very, very, very lucky to spend, I guess, 15 years or so driving sustainable operational, cultural, financial performance improvements, and that's a big part, I think, of what I bring into Laing O'Rourke.
Sorry, it turned into a little bit of a job interview, didn't it?
It did a bit. In my weekends, I like.
Oh yeah, I like hunting, fishing. So, but I guess that point around culture though is so important, and the construction industry gets a lot of slack for being against change and sort of around not really being as modernized as people maybe would like. And so I guess there are stats to maybe suggest that might be the case around how we've done in terms of technology adoption as a sector. But I guess that's, in terms of your background and sort of really like where you come to the table, I guess that culture shift must be at the core of what you try and target in terms of when you're rolling out new solutions. Like, what is the role of sort of culture as you see it?
I think it's huge and it's non-negotiable. Look, we're very lucky that the founder of the company, Ray O'Rourke, is the most visionary individual I've ever had the pleasure of meeting and working with. Ray looks for, how do we do things differently? How do we do things better? The legacy that the family wants to leave on construction is huge, and technology and innovation plays a big part in that. Learning from manufacturing plays a big part in that. How do we digitally enable each and every step of the process as well? So Ray brought myself in. I have some great colleagues who've come to more of an aerospace background, from automotive manufacturing backgrounds. So he's pulling in and seeding people with a different set of experiences and different thoughts, which is very complementary. People are at the heart of everything we do. And when I joined, week one, Ray said, look, you need to get up to Everton. They've done some really special stuff up there from a digital perspective. And I'd love to get your help to get the Everton equivalent everywhere. Ray called it. So as I came up and I met the team, the two questions that I wanted to answer, first was what are the digital tools that the team here have identified and have found that add real value? But perhaps more importantly, or certainly one that I was more interested in, is the how. How have they managed to land these tools and make them sticky? And I think that's, for me, that's possibly the biggest success story here. And there's a huge amount that we've then taken and looked to roll out and exemplify elsewhere as well.
Yeah, I mean, go on, I'll bite. What is the secret to making digital tools sticky, as you found on Everton? What's the secret ingredients?
Well, I can't possibly dive. No, look, I don't think it's only one thing. I think you do need the planets to align. But I think it starts with a permissioning and with an ambition. So that ambition comes from the very top of the business. There's an expectation that we're going to push the boundaries of what's possible when we're delivering projects such as this, or rail infrastructure, or water, or nuclear power stations. So there's an expectation that we're going to push the boundaries, and we're afforded the freedom. There's an investment of time, of energy, of support and guidance. And actually that, we talked about culture, that culture comes from the very top into the project director and the project leadership. And Gareth, the project director here, absolutely set up that culture. But we had a game plan, or the team developed a game plan. And right at the heart of that was digital first. So I think that's a massive part of the secret sauce. From day naught, digital was at the heart of everything we say, everything we do, how we were going to go to work. And that was enabled all the way through with energy, with challenge, encouraging people to try things. And then if it's not working, that's fine, chalk it up to experience. But if it is working, let's really get behind it. So I think that's it for me, is that probably starts with that permissioning and ambition.
And I mean, I can see that it very much became true, because as you said, when you start with digital right at the inception of the project, sort of early stages of design, you're designing with the right intention. And if you see how the new stadium has been built, with the large columns of brick being built off-site in a modular fashion, and then being driven to site and sort of almost plugged in. There are examples of that throughout the whole stadium, which is really pretty inspiring for everyone.
It is, and it's at the core of our operating model. So some 20 years ago, we invested in an offsite precast facility. Now, kit of parts, DFMA, modern method of construction is on the tip of every designer and every tier one contractor's lips at the moment, and that's great, because I think that is the future of the industry. That is where we need to go to meet the volume of work, the scale of work, the innovation that's going on within the sector. We have this in-house. We have a vertically integrated supply chain. We own our own MEP off-site facility. We own our own concrete precast facility. We're constantly evolving and challenging ourselves what we can put through there, and we're emulating it in different parts of the business as well. But we have some fairly strict guide rails that we apply when we're going through work winning, where a minimum of 70% of our projects need to be built offsite, because it's safe, it's respectful to the humans, because it's, you're not on the River Mersey 10 stories up in the driving rain, or in the warm, relatively dry. Like I say, it's safe. You can control the quality, and you can, we're getting between 2 and 5 or 6 months ahead. Those facade panels outside, we were building those 5 months out. And, a year ago, when everything was being shipped into the site here, it's just a procession of precast materials coming in. And then there's one, they're craned into place. Again, it's safe. We're engineering in safety, engineering out schedule and safety risks. And those, you've then got one person assembling it like a Meccano set.
And one of the fascinating things about this project specifically is, as you told me before, where we're standing right now didn't exist. It didn't exist. It was new land created within the Mersey, which is really pretty incredible. So I mean, there's a reason why it had to be modular. It's because the site didn't exist.
Yeah, and I've heard tales of, if there's something that can't be done, come and tell Laing O'Rourke, and they'll give it a pretty good go. I refer to this place very respectfully as the Dubai of the North. Yeah. Because Bramley-Moore Dock was exactly that. My background in defence and maritime, I feel kind of an affinity to this place, because
I bet.
3.5, 4 years ago, we're stood in the middle of a dock, literally, and that had to be pumped out. Irish Sea was dredged, it was backfilled, temped in, foundations went in, and from that, this incredible project has been delivered. From a digital perspective, and what do you do to deliver something a day early? You build it twice, and you build it first virtually. And again, we often talk about digital rehearsals in the sector. From day dot, this thing had been built and modelled to a construction level of detail, and that is what drove the daily, weekly, monthly governance and drumbeat. Working with with the planning team, with truly doing 4D, not just to tell a story, but actually to drive progress. And you asked about how do we make things sticky. I talked about that permissioning in the ambition bit. The way you make digital isn't by getting my digital team to pedal faster. It's that adage of, give a person a fish, you feed them for a day. Teach a person to fish, you feed them for a lifetime. The planners, a colleague of mine, Simon, he had that ambition to learn a new tool set and to really exploit what digital and what technology could bring. So really joining the schedule, the program, the drones that we were flying twice a week, pulling all of that information together to get a single point of truth that told us exactly where we are and exactly where we're going over the next day, week, month. And without fail, it was ridiculous. I've come to site and you see some of the huge bits of steel coming in. And being in the 4D review, you'd see that was the movement that was going on in the day. And and then you look outside, and all of a sudden the piece of steel and it was almost like it was choreographed.
I bet.
When you've got a function who sees the value of a digital tool, and you're not pushing it, they're pulling it and running with it. You've won, right? And then it's like, right, how can we help you get that to the other 29 projects that we're delivering around the country? So that's the journey we're on, and that's just one of the digital tools in our big and bulging
it's impressive
toolbox.
And you spoke a little bit earlier about almost the why, and like sort of teams being under pressure. And I guess if you sort of like zoom out a little bit and you look at maybe the UK construction sector as a whole, the industry is under a lot of pressure. If you look at the water sector, record levels of investment in the water sector, unlike anything before. If you look at the rail sector, obviously you've got your big sort of HS2 mega projects, but a huge amount of local investment as well, trying to improve access for local communities. You've got the nuclear sector. It's really hopefully on the rise in the UK after some recent good news with Rolls-Royce. But I guess sort of almost that sort of why, like sort of what sort of pressures do you see and those sort of reasons to act? Everton being delivered one day early is an amazing case study for all to learn from. But not every project is like that. So like what sort of challenges do you see on the ground and drivers for change?
I'm ever the optimist. So I think more about it. They're not challenges, they're opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely.
There have been tragic stories over, in our lifetime, very recently, things like Grenfell, which have and will and are driving a change in the way that we legislate, the way that we consider building safety. So I think there's regulatory changes and challenges that are coming in that are taking a little time to navigate and understand, but they are for the good of the sector. I think if you think about, this has been built offsite predominantly, and that reduces the workforce, the volume of workforce. The demand for construction work is growing. We all know it's a tough sector. Margins can be tight, can be crippling, and even in the last 24 months, we've seen some big companies very sadly go under. The work hasn't gone away, so we can't just keep trying to do things the same way and expect the same outcome and be able to achieve an increase in productivity. And we will all have seen the differential graphs between levels of productivity in construction versus manufacturing. You look at technology, you look at higher education and workforce demographics. People aren't going to want to come into a sector and work for 45 years in the driving rain in all conditions, lifting heavy manual stuff, getting respiratory challenges and halves and all of the things that come with old ways of working. We simply won't attract the levels in. So I think, thinking about the people and putting people at the very heart of our approach is certainly something that we're looking for. And I know other companies are as well. And what that means is you can't do things the same way. So you have to seek inspiration from manufacturing. I think we're all looking to go towards industrialized construction, and I think we've got more that we want to do, but we're kind of exemplifying that with all that we do already. And I think that's where the whole sector is going to have to move. It's not an option. It's not do I want to? Do I not? I've got no choice, because the workforce isn't going to do that. People who aren't going to want to come and work in this sector, what they are going to want to do is embrace technology, learn new skills, probably have squiggly careers and try lots of different things.
Yeah.
And I've been very lucky to work across a number of different sectors. It's absolutely a thrill working in construction, and I love opportunities, and I seek them whenever I can to get out to my son's school and to my old university and careers fairs and all these sorts of things, to say, have you any idea how diverse a career in construction can be?
Absolutely.
And it can be everything from design to technology to digital to health and safety to commercial. You can have a whole career in one big company.
Absolutely. And you know what? Sometimes you get blue skies.
Sometimes
you get blue skies.
Yeah, it doesn't happen too often.
So we've definitely got a little bit of luck with us today.
That's it.
Paul, I want to ask about the buzzword that we all know and love. We're both digital guys, right? I've got to ask about AI. So what's your take on AI for the construction sector? Is it going to take jobs? Is it going to help us do our jobs better? We spoke a lot about productivity, and I think it has a large place to play in helping the experts be more productive. What's your take on it?
It's here, right? And I definitely think, I was speaking to someone yesterday and they said, God, geez, I wish I'd invested in Bitcoin all that time ago, because I'd be a rich man now. And let's not be behind the curve with AI. So it's here. I don't think it's going to take jobs. I think it's going to supplement. It's really exciting. The job that you and I and our teams are doing today will be different in 1, 2, 5, 10 years time. And that's something we shouldn't shy away from. We should embrace and lean into that. I think the sector as a whole, you can't go to a conference, a podcast, a conversation without someone asking, where does AI play into this? My sense is that people are seeking to understand, because they don't know, and I don't think we all know. Something I find helpful is I think there's a spectrum. So you've got your kind of full-fat agentic AI, and I don't think there's much in that space. In delivery, it's getting more into that space from a design perspective. At the other end of the spectrum, we've got what I term IA, intelligent automation.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of the challenge with AI is, we're hardwired as engineers, title of the podcast, we're hardwired to understand and validate and check and assure. And when you've chucked something into an AI engine, it whirs away and tells you the answer is 7, we just don't believe it because we don't understand it. So we need to go, again, coming back to the people, we need to go on a journey to build trust. And to me, if you understand, you find it a lot easier to trust something. So actually, intelligent automation at the other end of the spectrum is a really helpful step along that journey. And if you think about kind of crawl, walk, run, there's tons going on around intelligent automation, which isn't AI, but it's like the first stepping stone into it. What's every company on the planet probably trialing at the moment? It's Gemini, Copilot, ChatGPT. And look, what's that doing? It's taking heat out of the system.
Yeah.
It's not taking away people's jobs. It's allowing them to do elements of their job faster so that they can get on to the next thing. So look, I think it's here to stay. I don't think we should be shy, but we do need to be kind of curious and lean into it and embrace it.
How do you balance, in your opinion, speed and progress with sort of team engagement and buy-in at a cultural level?
Yes.
Which I realise is $1 million question.
Yeah, again, if I could eloquently answer that, I'd probably have written a couple of books and be a rich man. I think there's a recipe for success with change, and if I reflect on my career, I've definitely learned how to do things and very much how not to do things along the way. Start small. Big bang isn't always the right way to go. Maybe it's never the right way to go. How do you pick a technology, pick a focus area, really go and understand it to within an inch of its life, fail fast, learn fast, and then look to drive that adoption elsewhere. And it all comes down to people. Just mandating something doesn't work.
Yeah.
Being able to articulate, what's in it for me? What's the value of something? And how's it going to make my life easier? How's it going to give me greater certainty? How's it going to enable me to improve the safety of my colleagues or of people at large? So I think being able to articulate value on it's important. I think start small and bring people in and build rather than trying to blanket approach. Be prepared to don't flog a dead horse. If something doesn't feel like it's quite right, that's fine. Chalk it up to experience and move on. But maybe most important is be really clear on the problem that you're trying to solve. So don't identify a thing that looks cool. It might be the perfect solution to a problem that we don't have, either because we actually don't have it or because we don't realize we have it. That problem needs to be owned by a functional head or a project leader or a certain individual. But let's make sure we fully define the problem that we're trying to solve, because the answer might not be tech. The answer might be a process thing or a cultural thing. If tech has a role to play, then being able to articulate how's this going to make the boat go faster? Yeah, how's it going to actually add value?
It's one of my favourite phrases is, does this make the boat go faster? And sort of the need to be laser focused on the outcome. And almost it's very easy for, say, folks like us to get wrapped up in innovation circus and everything. But then the ultimate question we need to ask day in, day out is, okay, does this make the boat go faster? Does this help us deliver our outcomes? And I want to pick up on one of the points there around flogging a dead horse and sort of listening to your gut. Because in the industry at the minute, obviously we're pushing more towards sort of intelligent assets, intelligent asset optimization, and sort of using sensors and data to drive decision making.
Yeah.
And there's this in the industry, one of the challenges that we sometimes see is expert power and the data and the systems versus expertise and sort of real deep understanding, knowledge, working the site for 30 years, knowing the asset better than your kids. How do you balance the gut feel decisions with data-driven decisions, would you say?
So, look, geez, my whole background is kind of facts, data, and evidence-based. So that's my go-to. But so I think data has its place, and you can get. So someone once used a phrase that I really loved: infobesity. Yeah, you can get a really complicated war room with 150 different graphs in it.
Big mission control.
Yeah, which is the one thing that I need to care about. That there's you can't get away from gut feel, and so whatever's hurting you or you're getting heat about, that's going to be your number one priority. It's probably going to be different to mine. It's going to be different to the next person's. I speak to my team a lot about earning the right. My team's job, our purpose, is to transform project delivery through digital solutions, and it's to come and support the delivery of our projects. I'm not the person that's accountable for the decisions and the delivery of the project. That's the project directors. So I'm going to be very respectful of their agenda, and I'm going to earn the right by demonstrating that me and my team are helping them make the boat go faster. And then I go, hey, those things that you were after have worked really well, but why don't we have a look at this? I believe that there's even more to go at in here. So I think you've got to take a balanced approach. I often battle with how big is the sea in consistency across our projects. We've got 30 or so different projects. Stand back far enough, we're designing and making and handing something over, but what they are and the humans involved, it is different, and that's what makes it such an incredible sector to work in. But how do you strike a balance between consistency, knowing what the core set of tools are and everyone being familiar with them and being able to interoperability between projects, if you like, without stifling innovation? Because you don't want every project going off and trying something different, but you don't want everyone just following a precision, because then you're going to miss something.
Yeah.
So I find that a real challenge. How do you balance that knife edge?
Yeah, and I mean, from my perspective, I speak a lot around like getting the basics right, and getting the basics right. So that's, if you look at, say, an average project, there will be a huge amount of opportunity, really low-hanging opportunity there, in terms of just making sure that people have the information that they need to make a good decision when they need it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it could be the most unsexy ideas and solutions to those challenges ever, whether it's doing your surveys before you need them, before it's mission critical, get your surveys done.
Yeah.
And then what that then means is then you've then got this sort of trickle through effect across the whole program, because people have been able to make a decision when they need to, rather than delaying that decision. And I mean, that's one example, sort of getting the basics right. But I think if you look at a project there, I would honestly expect 60 to 70% of the opportunity to improve being quite low hanging, and you can standardize that, which then leaves that 30% buffer for sort of on the ground spontaneous innovation. And I think sort of balancing it like that, I see as really the answer to it. Because you don't want to stifle innovation, and you don't want to stifle someone saying, oh, I just heard from this project down the road, they've got this new drone capability, let's give it a go. That you want to really support and enable. So you do want that space to be able to allow that.
Yeah. So we've got three objectives that we're focusing on as a team. The first is get the basics right, get the basics working on our projects. And a big part of that is, where we've done, so I talked about 4D here, where we've got best in class that we've seen in the companies. So this isn't some ethereal, I've heard someone else has done this, unobtainium. Yeah. This is something that we're seeing in the business. What's the best we've seen in class in Laing O'Rourke? Let's set that as our bar. And how do we bottle that and have it on the shelf so every project can operate at that standard? If we achieve that, that's transformation. So first of all, around getting the basics right is, how do we codify the great stuff that exists today? The way we do that is our second objective, by digitally enabling our people, and that's beyond just my team. This is how do we get 15,000 colleagues comfortable and confident, understanding what value a digital tool or a piece of technology can bring to them in their life, and it gets us into that teach a human to fish space. Yeah. And the reason we're doing that is my team pedaling faster doesn't make the boat go faster. It's the team, it's our people, our 15,000 people that we're digitally enabling, that realise value on projects. And that's the third one, is how do we articulate the impact that this is going to have on me? And a great way that I find to do that is around how many hours am I giving back, or days am I giving back? You can put a financial figure on that. You can supplement it with impact on safety, quality, right first time, all of those things. But get the basics right by digitally enabling our people to realise value on projects. And they're the kind of three simple steps that we're working towards.
Yeah. And you know what? because of the scale of industry that we work in. You take a company like Laing O'Rourke, the scale that you operate at, 15,000 people, you say, you only need to save someone 15 minutes, 30 minutes a day, or even a week, and you multiply that up by 15,000, or the number of projects that you have, the scale of capital investment that you're working across, that then really produces a massive time and cost saving. We do need transformative change, the massive, big sort of moonshots in the industry. We absolutely need that, and there are so many examples of it being brought in. But you also need the incremental change and sort of the balance of the two, because ultimately we could bring in a new modular nuclear reactor to transform a wastewater treatment site or something absolutely incredible. But then actually, is the person on the ground, or is, say, a construction worker on a Laing O'Rourke site really going to sort of really invest into that? Whereas if you say, hey, Paul, I can save you 1 hour of your day, you might be able to get home to your family 1 hour sooner. That's the bits that's really going to get the ownership and the commitment.
I'm very lucky that we don't have this not invented here syndrome in the company. So if someone's doing a good thing, I'm very lucky that the culture that has been fostered in the business is people will go, I love that. I'm not going to reject it because it was your idea, not mine. I'm going to take that. I'm going to build on it and make it better. So there's still that healthy competition, which I think is
Absolutely
great. But it's healthy competition, not unhealthy competition. It's circle of life. So it's like a spiral staircase, right? So instead of it being like snakes and ladders, where you make some good developments on a project, you go to the next one and you slide down a snake, and in terms of that maturity curve, you're back at square 12 rather than square 28. Having this kind of infinity spiral staircase of some sort, I don't know where that's coming from, but let's go with that. I think that's great. Yeah, having every project slightly better than you did last time is. It worked for Team Sky with Dave Brailsford, marginal gains. He didn't go and redesign the bike, like other people have. It was all, little incremental kind of course corrections, and pennies make pounds.
That's it.
It makes a huge difference, and it sticks.
So Paul, here's a question. We spoke a little bit about sort of the $1 million question, and I'm going to sort of put you on the spot again, I guess. If you had a crystal ball and sort of looking into the industry, maybe a few years, 5, 10 years down the line, what does it look like, and sort of what sort of capabilities are your teams using on their day-to-day basis?
I can't give away too many of the. No, I'm only kidding. Look, I think if we look near term, far, a bit further away, we talked about AI earlier. AI is going to start to find its way into everything we're doing, and I think where AI is going to help is where it's making people's lives easier. It's taking heat out of the system, and it's automating stuff in minutes that would otherwise take hours and days, and would be prone to human error. So it will give us a better outcome faster with less energy, and allow people to be moving on to more things. And like I said, it's not doing people out of a job. There's more work than we've got, human beings to be able to service. So we'll just be able to cover more jobs. So that's a really positive thing. You would have picked up that there's a pretty consistent theme with my mantra around people, and that's very deliberate. I do think people are the most important thing in digital and in construction. A massive area of focus for us is around how do we get that how do we digitally enable that collaboration, and digital and technology has got a big part to play in that. So maybe if I reflect on a journey that kind of started here in Everton, the project leadership team wanted to find a more engaging way of inducting people to site that wasn't, sit down in a dark classroom, pin your ears back and be taught that with a couple of PowerPoint slides. So we used an immersive suite. So people have heard of BIM caves, maybe 5-10 years ago. This is, three sides on a room, wall to wall, floor to ceiling projection, touch sensitive walls, a projected image on the floor as well. So you've got an opportunity to be fully immersed in a different way. And that's where we ran all of our site inductions to really reimagine site health and safety inductions. Yeah. Some of my colleagues in operations were in one of those inductions and said, do you know what, we could review project progress in a completely different way. And that's where we started to think about how do we embrace all that 4D can bring. So schedule on one wall, model on the other wall, drone footage on the floor, action list over on the right hand side. And all of a sudden, by as long as you've got the work breakdown structure in place to digitally connect, give you that thread of connectivity all the way through, all of a sudden you can move things around, you can resequence, and it all happens in real time. Now, one of the key challenges we had here was around logistics, because you've got the Mersey, a site over on the right-hand side, and indeed we slightly overhang it, and then we've got a dock on the left-hand side. So we had, logistics, as it often is in a city working, was a challenge. So we had to get all of the players on the pitch, excuse the pun, connected and aligned, and speaking from a single point of truth, singing from the same hymn sheet, all of those things, and that was the next evolution of that stadium. And now we started to go, well, how do we de-risk delivery much earlier? So one of the things that we're striving for is the highest level of design maturity as early as possible. So that needs the architects to be inputting in with the vision. That needs the designers who have then started to deconstruct that and break it down. It needs us, because we're the guys and girls that are going to be actually setting to work and delivering this. And what we want to be delivering is something that's going to work for the clients. So if you're building a hospital, you need the clinicians, you need the surgeons, you need the nurses in there to understand, is there enough space? Is this laid out in a logical way that's going to enhance the way you do your job, not get in the way of the way we've got a great opportunity when you're designing a hospital to get it right. So some of my team, with our design managers and others, evolved the use of these immersive spaces to do 1 to 50 design reviews, because if you're not an engineer, you're not trained to read a drawing and to interpret it and to be able to visualize it in your head. What better way to do it than to actually immerse people in the room? And that's where we're going to be continuing to evolve our thinking, is actually how do you get kind of AR, VR into that space as well. And a huge amount around collaboration and enabling that. Doing what we do today won't get us where we need to be tomorrow. The off-site, the modular journey was Laing O'Rourke set off on that 20 years ago, and it's still absolutely at the core of our operating model. And it's something we passionately believe in. And when we work with clients that share that ambition, great things happen, and you get that certainty. Once you've seen it, it's like, why on earth would you do it any other way? So.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting, because if you look at where we are at as a sector, you do see an increasing amount of learnings come from other sectors. We've obviously spoken a lot about manufacturing today and taking the learnings from that and that sort of industrialization almost of construction. But also if you look at, particularly towards the Middle East and the US, around data centers and that sort of high precision engineering and the learnings that we can bring across to construction from that, it's no one works harder than a Facebook trying to get their data centers online.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
right.
when there's that sort of commercial drive, there's incredible innovation happens. Yeah. And I think there's virtual reality and the sort of the headsets being used for inspection on the sort of the data centers, that's been in use for actually now a couple of years. Yeah. And it's interesting to see those learnings that the construction sector is pulling through into the UK.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of technology learnings. I'd offer that there's, if you look at some of the designers, people are getting more behind this kit of parts approach, and one of my colleagues talks about how do we, to really get value and speed and scalability, how do you standardize the invisible and customize the visible? I used to work near the mini plant at Oxford, and there was, with a sense of pride, if you went on a tour there, they said no two minis have left that plant, in the same configuration of the X million minis they've made. I think you can only have 35 different configurations of Tesla. Model 3 in terms of wheel, colour, trim, only have 35 different permutations. That's how you get stale. Yeah. So there's how much do we really want this? Because you can, put the core and the frame that we're building up using a more standardized approach, a more modular approach. But you can still have the facades and the customer facing interesting bits, which can shiny and different and unique. I think the new hospital program gives us a great opportunity to look at that. And one of the don't like the word challenge. One of the considerations with construction is it's so often one of one.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it can be interesting to understand how do we port those learnings, and data centers probably is something where actually there's scalability. They're parametrically often different, but yeah, they are going up at such a pace. And like you say, when you've got Meta chasing you, you're working at a lick there.
Absolutely.
So how can technology enable that?
Totally. And then the benefit is when you've got standardized designs and only say 3 or 4 variations, that's when you can then start to really innovate around the delivery model. And one of previous guests on the Future Engineering podcast is Natalie Wadley of Changemaker 3D. Fantastic company focusing on 3D concrete printing with these amazing little robots, these large robot arms. They get brought to site and then can just pour concrete like this. And it's been pioneered by United Utilities on their IED program, building these new walls using this concrete arm. And it's something amazing, like sort of 50 to 80% less concrete, less time. And also it's safer because the people can stand back. So not only modular, but it's also built on site, start to finish within minutes.
Yeah, 24/7, 365.
That's it,
doesn't
absolutely.
Need a break.
You just need to put a little marquee up, little garden party marquee up, wheel your robot in, and it's printing walls as you go. You can go and have a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I think it's going to be horses for courses, right?
Yeah.
There'll be certain parts of the set that lends itself well to. I think if you're looking at something like this, big steel frame, and then all of the terracing, beautiful high quality terracing that was stood on, is then brought in modules. That lends itself to an offsite approach. I think something that will grow is not just offsite but near site. If you get down and look at HS2 and the different elements of HS2 that are being built, you're seeing a bit more near site manufacturing. But I think there's an opportunity to take that to a different level of precision. I think with all of these things, and again thinking about where are we heading with technology, so much of it is about engineering in safety and engineering out risk. And there's a huge amount that technology has to play in that, and that's everything from AI cameras as you're coming into the site, understanding that someone's forgotten their glasses, through to permits to work and not releasing jobs until all the checks and balances are there, and you can go through the information that sits back of house to be able to assess that, through to understanding what services are in the walls or underground, and feeding that into your excavator, so you've got you're not having services strikes and so on. So that would be another huge area of innovation.
Absolutely.
It is around.
And Paul, one last question just to finish. What inspires you the most within the sector? What sort of gets you up those early mornings going out to site in the rain? What inspires you the most, would you say?
It's probably being in a town like Liverpool, like Manchester, like London, with colleagues who have been in the sector longer than me, and going around the corner and them going, I built that, and in particular I designed this little bit of it. Yeah. And they kind of go away for a moment, and the pride that sits in people, and we talk about pushing the boundaries of what's possible in service of humanity. We leave a legacy, and what we do really matters, and that legacy could be for entertainment, it could be with start and finish life in a hospital, it could be transport infrastructure that we get around with. We're truly leaving a legacy for humanity to benefit from, and the pride that I see in people, and the toil, the blood, sweat and tears, the learning, the friendships that they've gone through to achieve that is just inspirational. Couple that with being 2.5 years into a job and still feeling like I'm running at 100 mile an hour and can barely keep up. I'm kind of peeling off the back of the peloton. While I feel like I'm constantly afforded the chance to learn every day, I'll be here as long as the sector will have me, mate.
Absolutely. Paul, thank you so much for joining me. It's been absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.